So there was about $6,000 worth of repairs that would need to be done, of known repairs, which didn't include this turning off issue, whatever that is.
Which was a known repair that had an unknown cause and an unknown solution with an unknown cost.
$5,700, which is close to basically a new used bike.
Moxie, Greg, and I are riding around the world to raise $100,000 for the nonprofit Girl Up. We're donating 10% of RUFFLY sales to the fundraiser and posting a new episode every week. It's a big dog on two wheels adventure for girls' empowerment. So follow along and please lend your support.
So we came to the BMW of Ventura because I've been having issues with my bike since we left Guatemala. A lot of the issues I knew about, and some of them we just discovered that when we were here.
Issues with the bike. We've got oil leaking from several spots of the engine, worst one being the base of the cylinder, which requires taking off the whole top end.
So the main issue was that we've been having oil leakage. They tried to fix it in Guatemala after the battery acid leakage that we had that caused all these little holes in the oil tubes.
Tenemos una fuga aquí, una aquí y otra aquí. Son casi como 4. Ajá, pero son unos puntitos. Ajá, mínimo.
We replaced the gaskets on the engine. So we got like 2 minutes from the BMW after they did that temporary fix on the oil leakage, and then we had a huge like oil splash. I was just standing there, and then all of a sudden it just started leaking out. We replaced that. We replaced the cylinder head cover, which had this part where oil was leaking out.
I have the part. Thank you, New Century BMW of California. So now I'm just working out the situation with the BMW Motorrad here in Torreon.
And it was doing really well until we got to, I think it was Shaver Lake, in California, where we noticed a few drops coming from it. We were getting ready to go this morning away from our cabin here, and I turned out my bike and all of a sudden it started smoking. So we looked around, and it's possible that I still have a bit of an oil leak. So it wasn't just as simple as they needed to like replace the gasket in the engine that we had nothing to do with that. The oil is leaking from multiple places on the engine, so that requires like a whole engine rebuild.
Battery is not good, handlebars are bent.
When I dropped my bike in Guanajuato, my handlebars got bent, so we wanted them to replace that. So I had my first fall of the trip. We were following this route, which is basically like a small little pathway in between these little houses. Then all of a sudden we get to the spot here where all of a sudden the stairs start. So obviously this is not a path for bikes. So we need to turn around. And as I stopped, we just plopped over.
The tail light is not working and the assembly is not making any connection. Front tire is bald. Most of the time when the bike is cold, it doesn't idle very well and it just stalls and just turns off all by itself.
I think this started happening when we finished the Iron Tail in California, where in neutral or if I was in gear but just idling, it would shut off. Just all of a sudden shut off, like as if I had stalled. And Greg was making fun of me the whole time, thinking that I was stalling as I was leaving parking spots because the bike kept turning off. And it wasn't a stall, it just turned off. And so they noticed that as well. The first day he said it just kept stalling and stalling and stalling, kept turning off. And they did that day 1. Day 2 and day 3, they were testing it again. Nothing, it kept running, it was perfect. Maybe it was because they took it apart a little bit and put it back together and maybe something luckily fixed it. We just don't know. So that's an issue that could still be outstanding as well. Just a quick time out to tell you how you can support the Go Ruffly Around the World adventure for Girl Up. You can donate directly to Girl Up at goruffly.com/world-adventure. You can make a purchase at goruffly.com where 10% goes towards the fundraiser. Tell all your friends and family about it. And of course, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much. Now back to the adventure.
Front brake disc is more than 0.5 millimeter below thickness, and the rear brake disc, same thing.
They were going to put a new front tire because mine is done.
And then lastly, but also probably the worst issue, is the clutch just slipping under load.
So that's a really expensive piece to replace.
When he mentioned that, it was like a light bulb went off in my head. Because I was noticing that I was struggling to be able to get from first into second. I felt like maybe I wasn't doing it properly, and of course it's it's all my own neuroses of feeling like it's all my fault. But that feeling that like I wasn't pushing the shifter hard enough. But when he said about the clutch slipping, I was like, yes, that's exactly it. I was struggling to get it into gear and it kept coming back down and I couldn't get it to stay.
The sprocket needed to be replaced as well because it was fully worn down, and a few other smaller issues that they had noticed.
So lots of things cumulative together on this bike.
So there was about $6,000 worth of repairs that would need to be done, of known repairs, which didn't include this turning off issue, whatever that is.
Which was a known repair that had an unknown cause and an unknown solution with an unknown cost.
$5,700, which is close to basically a new used bike. And so I found a really good one at Gateway BMW. It was a trade-in, and it only has 10,000 miles, and it was about just under $6,000, which made a lot of sense. Being the same model, it means that I wouldn't have to buy new crash bars or new panniers or racks. All of that I could just move off and then basically have a new used bike. That was on one day. By the next day, when I called to finalize the deal, one of the other salesperson at the dealer there had sold it to somebody else. They said that they paid cash and they sold the bike. So I was obviously pissed about it, and like, yeah, we were just sort of talking about it, but I thought that they would have locked in the fact that I was considering it. So we went to a dealer here in California so that I could try out. There was a used F0800 GSA that was available. And I sat on it and I did not love it. I sat on the 800 Adventure, the GS, and it was tall, it was uncomfortable, it was something that I wasn't used to. And to think about the places that we're going, like even the ones that we have now, it's a struggle to get these ones onto like the little boats that we have to pass across the rivers in the rural places. What I've come to discover for myself is that it really is the bike that you should do it on is the bike that you have. Like, that's really the best way, because it's a bike that you're most comfortable with, that you know how it's going to handle on different terrain. You're just going to feel a lot more comfortable doing it on a bike that you feel good on, rather than going up to something new or different. Hey! So we scrapped the idea of the 800 GSA, kept looking and looking, and then by the evening the dealer at Gateway got back to me and said he spoke to the sales manager and he basically revoked that sale and asked me if I still wanted it. So it has been a adventure. I didn't really expect that I was going to get a new bike for this trip, or a different bike for this trip. I am sad to sort of see mine go. Like, I had painted it my color, like I'm used to it. Her name is actually Moxie Thumper. I had Moxie first before I had German Shepherd Moxie. And so my bike and my dog are sort of named the same. But Moxie Thumper, my 2013, has just really been struggling. And, you know, it's just part of accepting the challenge. You know, I needed another bike. This one just wasn't going to make it. Like, with all of those issues, the cost of repairing that, plus whatever additional issues were going to come up in the future, it makes no sense to bring a bike like this to a place where there are limited BMW dealers. Like, think about when we go into Africa, it's just going to be a struggle. So rather get something that we know is going to work well. So I am excited about my new white BMW G650GS. It's a 2015 and it only has 10,000 miles on it, versus my 2013, which has 70,000 miles on it. So you can see that it makes sense to get that 2015. So my bike is completely taken apart right now because I'm going to be replacing all of my accessories on my normal bike to my new used 2015, which is coming from Missouri at Gateway BMW. So I had it shipped here to me in LA. My bike is looking very bare. We've taken it apart so that I can get my crash bars, my foot pegs as well, and my side cases and everything ready, because my new used bike is on its way from Missouri. The delivery truck couldn't make it into the community where we're staying with Greg's mom, probably because it's a big truck. So we're gonna go and meet it out on the street, and then I'll have my first ride.
They have taken Jess's bike off of the truck, and the guy is riding it in to the community where my mom lives and where we are staying for this couple of weeks. And I think it's kind of a dick move, honestly. Like, you don't ride someone else's bike, even if you're delivering it. You delivered it on a truck, and you roll it down and you don't go riding it. You wait for us to come and we take possession of it, and then Jessica rides it. We don't want someone else riding it, so I'm not worried about the bike being dropped or something like that, although I am worried about that. But mostly I just think it's kind of a dick move. So I'm sure the guy won't end up being a dick, but it doesn't stop it from being a dick move, and that's how I feel about it. Here's the new bike. Let's see if it's all in one piece and what's what with this guy who rode her bike when he shouldn't have.
It's good. Look, it's even got auxiliary lights, my husband Greg. Oh wow, the gas is so loose. Yeah, she just purrs a little different. It's just a little bit of a different bike. But like, the gas is really smooth. The clutch, you're right, the clutch, like you can shift in the second and handlebars are straight. It feels like my bike, but just a little bit different. Little baby windscreen. But yeah. But it also is still hot. It still has the exhaust coming out on the right side on your leg. On the bike still. So this must be the auxiliary lights, yeah. They have just like a baby key though, which sucks. You see this little baby key?
Yeah, you'll have to get the BMW to make a new one.
Yeah.
Potentially.
There it is. Which color do you like better? The white or the...
Oh, the white looks really nice.
I know, and that's what I initially thought. But no, you're right. I think it makes more sense to switch them if we can. So we have a few things to do at the DMV to finish getting everything sorted, and we're going to do that on Monday. Tomorrow we're going to spend time just making some of the changes from the accessories from my old one to my new one. And then on Monday, after I bring it to the DMV, I'm going to switch my panels so that my new bike is going to look like my old bike. It's early Sunday morning and we're spending the day removing all of my accessories from my old bike and moving it to my new bike. We've taken off all of the crash bars now. So we've taken off the engine guard, we took off the fairing protector here and the bash plate along with my heat shield on the other side. We took off the ADV ones and we've now put them on my new bike. So the crash bar here, the one up here Greg is installing, the bash plate is on at the bottom, and the heat guard is gonna go up.
All right, so here's the question. Is it more important to have a really beefy skid plate / bash plate on the bottom or a really beefy engine guard? As it turns out, we can't do both. So this one came with Jess's new bike. It's really beefy. I don't know the brand, but it's a monster. And this is the Touratech one that we have from her original bike. And unfortunately, this is the Alt-Rider skid plate, which has taken a massive abuse through millions of topes and is just a super champ. So we can't do both of these, which means we have to choose. And as you can see, this is what we have chosen. What would you have chosen?
So it's coming along, and we've decided that the GV rack that came with the bike, it came with the rack but not the panniers. But it actually, the bottom nubs fit into my SW Motec cases. And we've always had an issue with our SW Motec rack. It wasn't very durable. We had to reinforce it, especially because of how it was connected and with the carrier. So the Givy one, it's actually a lot stronger. It mounts to by where the foot peg is in the back, and it has a whole thing in the back where it connects as well, sort of like the Touratech rack. So it's a lot more durable. So what we're gonna do is we've put the nubs from the SW Motec rack onto the Givy rack, the GV rack, and then we're gonna get a welder.
You're like 2/3, 3/4 of the way through recording. And you've now decided that it's not Givy, it's GV.
GV.
I think at that point you should have just played it out. You should have just stayed with it.
I give you GV.
Consistency is usually better than being correct.
Anyhow, and then the welder is going to put in the nubs on the top part here so that the top part of my case can get into those. For now, what we'll do is probably zip tie it. There are like 6 welders around here, so we're going to try them out tomorrow. We really only have 2 days until we have to leave, so it's really like quick turnaround to get this all done, especially with the trip to the DMV tomorrow. So that's what we're working on right now, but it's coming along. Oh, and the other thing, I did the windscreen. I put my old one on my new one, and I think it looks really good.
We have a bit of a Frankenstein situation right now, where Jess's new bike is just starting to get the aqua panels that Jess loves so much and wants to maintain. And so we're in the process of transferring them over.
Greg is making my old bike be snub-nosed. He does not want to put the effort into putting the beak back on so that I can ride it over the DMV and so that it actually looks like a complete bike. So I wanted a shepherd and I got a pug.
We have our 2 transplant patients here. This old bike is the donor. And in this particular operation, the donor bike is giving over its Cyclops headlight to the recipient patient. And the Cyclops headlight is sort of ultra bright, ultra white, and so we definitely want this on the road with us.
It's a little sad to see my bike like this, but on the other hand, like, she had a really good life. She's seen a lot of different places and has been through a lot with Moxie and I. So I think it's time for her to retire. So we are pulling off as much as we can from her. I think what we're gonna do is put her in the salvage yard. And the reason why we're doing that is because I've been struggling to get the California title for this bike. There's an emissions sticker on it from BMW. And those are the stickers that you need to show when you are transferring titles or anything like that. It's one of the checks on the list. So when I brought it to the DMV the first time a couple of weeks ago, they put on the note that it was a torn emissions label. I don't know how it got torn or what the deal is, but there's still like the remnants of the bottom half. We got a letter from the Winnetka DMV. They basically said you need to get a letter from the BMW to sort of show that it is in fact meeting California standards. It doesn't seem like that emission sticker for my 2013 is still available. It's like not a part anymore that BMW has. I thought that if I could just get the label and bring it in, they do another verification and that would be all right. It wasn't the case. We did that today. We went to the DMV with the new sticker, which was a forgery, but it was a new sticker. It had the right information on it. And after the verification, I brought it back in and the guy looked at the documents and then he brought it to his supervisor again. And she again said, no, you actually need to get a letter from the BMW, from BMW corporate. So not even just from your dealer. It needs to be from BMW Motorrad in Germany, stating that the bike is meeting California standards. Because what he said is that anybody could put a sticker on the bike. And they need to know that it actually is true. So this bike is actually gonna go to the salvage yard. And it's a little sad to do that, but like I said, she's had a really good life. So I called up a salvage yard here in Los Angeles and I sort of explained that I have the temporary registration, like the title, it's potentially on its way, or it would be. And I have proof that like it's my bike and I own it and all that good stuff. I don't think that they're really going to pay me anything for it. I think it's more of a service to dispose of. They said that they would deal with the registration and everything to make sure that I'm not going to be charged in the future. I think that's probably the safest and the quickest way to deal with this so that I don't have it hanging over my head for the rest of this trip. I just heard from the BMW at Gateway where we purchased the new used bike from, that there's an issue with the title. When the previous owner brought the bike into the DMV, he had 4,000 miles on it, but somehow the DMV added an extra 0 and put 40,000 miles on the title. So then when they were trying to get the title for me, they brought the bike in and it had 10,000 miles on it, but the previous title was showing 40,000. So they still need to get that sorted. So that means I'll have no documentation when I ride this bike over to Flagstaff, Arizona for Overland Expo West. We're on our way to Ventura, BMW to drop off all of our bikes. We have 3 bikes, so this is a bit of a to-do.
So we're riding my broken down Moxie over to the BMW. Greg is going to ride his bike. We'll drop off the broken down one, and then I will jump on the back of Greg's. We'll ride back to Reseda. Then he will ride his bike back. I will ride my new bike over, and Greg's mom will drive in the car. Greg's F0700GS has a new front tire. That was great. And they looked it over, and they said that the only real major thing that he needs to get done soon is the rotors, the brake rotors. They are quite worn, and so they need to be replaced. Which, yes, that's, at least it's not a $1,000 job like my bike was. There wasn't anything majorly seriously that needed to be fixed. My 2013 is out there ready to go. The tires have been swapped, so now that bike has the Torrents, the stock tires on it. And my new bike is still being worked on. So he's swapping the tires. He's gonna be working late, but hopefully it'll be ready by 6 when we come back. So wait, here's the plan. We're gonna ride our bikes to Greg's mom's place, drop off the dog, then we'll continue on to Greg's dad's place, drop off the 2013. And that's it for Moxie Thumper. She's been stripped down. She's now in her resting place for now. I have not scheduled the salvage yard to come in any of that yet. We're still deciding if we want to sort of give it away for parts or what we want to do, or hang on to it just in case. But here it is. It's staying here at Greg's dad's place. Yeah, that was her swan song ride. I will jump on the back of Greg's F700. We will double back to the BMW. I will get off. I will get my new bike, and we will ride our new bikes back to Reseda, so that tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. we are off to Flagstaff for Overland Expo. We left early this morning, not as early as we wanted to. We initially said it was gonna be a 5 a.m. start. That didn't happen. It was more of like a 6:30 start. We finally left LA. It's been the first day that I've been riding with my new bike. It's been really good. The throttle is so loose in comparison to my old one. It's just so smooth. I can balance so well when there's traffic and at slow speeds. I just didn't realize what a difference the new bike would make. And it's probably because I don't ride other bikes, so I was just sort of accommodating with whatever my previous bike was giving me. If it was a sticky throttle or if the clutch was slipping, I just sort of rolled with the punches when it came to that. So I didn't really realize that it could be that much better. But now I know, and I'm happy that I've got her.
So we are here at Overland Expo West 2022 in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Hi guys, thanks for watching the episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. So it was sad to say goodbye to Moxie Thumper. She was a fantastic bike. It definitely was like my learner bike. For those of you who don't know my story, I learned to ride in Liberia on a 160cc little sport bike. And after like only 1,000 kilometers of experience, I bought Moxie Thumper, 2013 BMW G650GS. And that's what I've been riding on this whole time for 9 years now. And she was really my learner bike. I didn't always treat her the best at the beginning. Like there were times where we would ride off-road and I'd be really anxious, so I'd just like stay in first gear the whole time, just riding in really high RPMs. Wasn't always shifting at the right time. All the typical things that you do on a first bike, because she really was my first like adventure bike. But she got me through North and South America and all the time that we spent in Guatemala and Central America. So it was sad to sort of put her away. But I know that she did a lot for me. She was the bike that I started riding with Moxie with. She's the bike that I started this around the world with. So there's a lot to be thankful for her, or from her. And I'm glad that I was able to have the time, the 70,000 miles with her. But I'm happy to introduce Luna Laguna. So you saw that Luna Laguna actually was white. And, you know, I really like the turquoise color. It was a custom job that I did and got in Guatemala, and I just really love that color. It's sort of my signature color. So I wanted to make sure that my next bike would have that same color. So Luna Laguna right now is turquoise. She definitely needs a new paint job. I do have some ideas in mind for when we get to Africa about what I want to do with her, so you'll have to keep a lookout and see what I decide. But she is a great bike. I've been riding around with her now, and oh my god, that throttle. It's just so smooth and lovely. What a difference from Moxie Thumper. But I'm really happy that I got this bike. I did want to address one question that I know I'm gonna get from people who are watching this. And I've already gotten a few of them, of why did I take my Moxie Thumper to the BMW dealer? Why didn't I just go to a different shop that wasn't the dealer to get her looked at and fixed? For the local shops, we had a really great experience with numerous ones, but mainly in Panajachel, our go-to mechanic was just this local shop, a little Suzuki dealer, a little hole in the wall, but we built trust with him over time. Like, we would give him small jobs, he would do a great job, and then we'd do different things more and more and more. And we just felt really confident that he knew what he was doing, and the results were what we expected. So in that case, that shop was great. And a lot of the times when you're on the road, like we've been, sometimes that's hard with the local shops because you don't know what really their experience is with your specific bike, and if they're gonna do a good job, and what their quality control is gonna be like. With the corporate BMW dealers, they sort of have their whole set of things that they need to go through to make sure that the bike is in good condition before you take it, and all of that that comes with being with a big headquarters and being global like that. So we've had good and bad experiences with both. Could I have brought my bike to a more local shop and had them do the whole engine rebuild and changing the clutch and all of the issues that Doug listed for less than the $6,000? Possibly, but that would require a lot of research on my behalf to figure out who exactly I would bring it to, who I would trust, the time it would take for them to actually do the servicing. In this case, we're on an around the world adventure, and time is money. And then the comfort and the confidence to know that they did a good job and that I'm taking this bike around the world. Because after here, we're gonna be in Canada, we'll be in Alaska, Northwest Territories, places that are a bit more remote. And then after that, we're gonna be in Africa. And that's where it gets a bit more difficult. And so if I've got a big lingering issue or something that I don't feel confident in on my bike, it's just gonna make the trip more difficult for me and more stressful. And I want to leave North America feeling like my bike is in good shape. And that's why I brought it to the dealer, to get the lowdown, see all of the things, and feel like I had a choice to make at that point. So the second question is, why did I get a bike all the way from Missouri brought to LA? I looked around locally for a used 650. Like I mentioned in this video, I did want a 650 because I did want to be able to switch off my accessories. I had the cockpit for the 650, again, because I wanted it to be quick. I wanted to feel like I could get this bike and we can move on. Not that there was going to be a whole learning curve of learning a whole different bike, having to get new accessories and everything else for that bike. So I wanted the same bike, and I wanted low mileage, and I wanted something a little younger. There were a few locally, but were really expensive for what I was seeing in other places. And most of them were like private sellers. So then there's that whole question of bringing that bike to a dealer to get it looked at. And if there are any issues, then you got to get them fixed. Again, time is money. But the bike that I did find was from Gateway BMW, where I have purchased parts from them numerous times. And I felt confident that because it was coming from a dealer, one was already serviced because it had 10,000 miles. They did the 10,000 mile servicing on it. From the photos that I saw and the conversations that I had with their team, it was in great condition. And that confidence of knowing that a dealer is saying that it's in great condition versus a private seller saying that their bike is in great condition, you know, that there's something there. And so the cost of buying that bike, getting it shipped from Missouri to LA, was still less than the cost of buying a bike in LA, for example, or in that area from a private seller. So I felt like it was the best choice for me because I really liked this bike. I really liked for where it was coming from. I felt confident from who I was buying it from, and the timing really worked out. it came at a great time for us, get enough time for us to remove everything from my old bike, put it on the new bike, and just sort of set off and continue our adventure. I know not everybody would have done it that way, and maybe if it was a different situation and I wasn't on an around the world trip, would I have gotten a bike shipped out from Missouri to LA? Probably not. I'd probably wait. I probably would spend time like watching the ads to see when a new 650 would pop up in the LA area and go check it out and go through the whole process of buying a new used bike. But I just didn't have that time. And that means a lot when you're on and around the world. I'm really happy with the choice that I made. And I think that that's having a bike that I feel good about really makes all the difference. So in the meantime, Moxie Thumper did have her swan song in Ponderosa, California. So you're gonna have to stay tuned next week to see how she stacked up against Can-Am. So that's a really fun one. You'll have to stay tuned for that for next week on Sunday. So don't forget to subscribe to us here on YouTube and at GoRUFFLY for Facebook and Instagram. We're always posting new stuff, so keep in touch. And as we continue our way north with Luna Laguna, I think that we're gonna have a lot more adventures that we're gonna be able to share with you. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.